Marvel has a lot of villains, but few are as terrifying and as gruesome as Carnage. You see, Cletus Kasady didn't need an alien symbiote's help to be a depraved freak, but it certainly helped. In fact, Carnage's only real reason for existence is to cause suffering to as many people as possible. I'm Josh from WhatCulture.com, and these are the 10 worst things Carnage has done. Number 10. Killed an entire diner for no reason. Deadpool vs. Carnage. If you know nothing about Carnage, then know this. The guy needs basically no reason to do the things that he does. Case in point, the time in Deadpool vs. Carnage where he slaughtered an entire diner's worth of people for reasons that make sense only to him. Hell, the dude might not have even had any reasons. When your name is Carnage, after all, you don't really need reasons to slaughter everyone in your path. It's kinda just in your job description. So it goes then that while waiting for Deadpool to arrive for the title bout, Carnage decided to pass the time by sealing a bunch of poor innocent people inside of a diner and then, one by one, brutally killing every man, woman, and child in the vicinity. It's a genuinely chilling display of hatred and murder that, this being a Deadpool comic primarily, you would think would be played for laughs. But really, there's nothing funny about what's going on here, and it makes you want to see Deadpool do what he does best and kick Carnage's dumb face in. Number 9. Killed Flash Thompson. Amazing Spider-Man number 800. Flash Thompson, once a little more than the schoolyard bully ready to make Spider-Man's life hell the minute he took off his mask, was given all new life when he bonded with the Venom symbiote and became the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent / superhero Agent Venom. It was a genius idea to develop what was once a pretty one-note character, and then make him a more active supporting character in the Spider-Man universe. But then, the Red Goblin happened. In the lead up to the 800th issue milestone, Marvel had Norman Osborn fuse with the Carnage symbiote to create the ultimate enemy, the Red Goblin. This was a symbiote with all of Carnage's powers, all of Norman's intelligence, but none of the weaknesses of a symbiote. As you can imagine, our heroes did not last very long at all, Spidey in particular being driven to the absolute limit. This culminated in the 800th issue where Red Goblin successfully murdered Agent Venom. Flash had turned himself into a superhero only for Carnage to take it all away from him. Number 8. He tortured and killed his dog, Venom Carnage Unleashed. It should come as no surprise by now that Cletus Kasady was a sickle far before he knew what a symbiote even was. The first sign that Cletus was going to turn out a sick little monster though was when his parents caught him with the dog Fifi. See, Cletus had gotten it into his head that a great way to spend an afternoon would be to tie Fifi up and slowly torture the poor creature to death with a power drill. While you don't see the actual results of his little experiment, the comic gives your brain everything it needs to fill in the blanks. This, of course, wouldn't be the end of Cletus's evil, but it is definitely a horrifyingly perfect example of what was to come from this kid's life. Number 7. He drove his therapist insane. Venom Carnage Unleashed. If you're a therapist in charge of a supervillain in a comic book, then chances are things aren't gonna work out too well for you. Trying to actually sit down and untangle the Gordian knot of insanity that is the mind of Cletus Kasady would appear to anyone with any sense to be a fool's errand, but, well, I guess you never know unless you try, do ya? During one of Carnage's many stays in the Ravencroft Institute, Carnage was visited by one Mr. Curtis. Now, Curtis was considered pretty eccentric, even by the standards of a place as creepy as Ravencroft, but trying to get to the bottom of Cletus took the cake, as well as a few other things, as Curtis would quickly find out. During one of their sessions, the Carnage symbiote retook Cletus's body without warning. Carnage, instead of killing Mr. Curtis, decides instead to drive the poor man irreparably insane. In fact, Curtis is driven so completely mad that he resorts to cannibalism. The fact that Carnage is capable of so easily breaking a human mind in two like a twig under an elephant's foot goes to show how dangerous this monster really is. Number 6. He pushed his grandma down the stairs. Carnage number 12. You have to be a special kind of psycho to push an old person down the stairs. Though, granted, this old lass did kinda have it coming. It probably doesn't need to be said, but Cletus's home situation is not what one might call quote-unquote healthy, or quote-unquote functional, or even quote-unquote basically safe at all for a child to grow up in. His father was an abusive fiend, as was his mother, but his vindictive old granny was the worst of all three. It shouldn't have surprised the old woman that the monster she helped create would turn on her eventually, waiting for just the right moment to push her down some stairs to ensure that she would not survive the fall. Cletus would go on to murder his father and mother as well, but this moment is a good deal more horrifying than those murders, due to it requiring careful planning on top of the sheer shock of the act. Number 5. Possessed a baby. Amazing Spider-Girl number 11 to 12. No matter the universe, Carnage will always be a complete jerk. In one of the most famous of Marvel's alternate universe stories, the Spider-Girl series, Mary Jane gives birth to Mayday Parker's little brother, Benjamin Parker. But just as Mayday is getting used to not being the only kid in the house anymore, Benji is taken over by a returning Carnage symbiote. Carnage probably didn't list the infant as its first choice host, but considering that the Parker family had a lot of experience by then of dealing with him, beggars can't be choosers, I guess. Carnage sought to get revenge on Peter's family by putting them in an impossible situation. Let Benji kill them all and remain the host of Carnage, or kill the infant to save him from Carnage. Mayday, being a spider, chose not to choose, tracked down one of her other villains, a sound-based baddie named Reverb, stole his tech and used it to force Carnage off her baby brother with ultrasonic waves. Number 4. Resurrected a Dark God and then killed it for its powers. Carnage 2016. For whatever reason, Marvel looked at this morally abhorrent, serial-killing, insane psychopath and declared, let's give him his own solo series not once, but 3 times. In the most recent solo series from 2016, Carnage found himself at the center of a conspiracy driven by a bunch of cultists who wanted to use him to resurrect their Dark God, Cthulhu. I think I've got that right. I've only ever seen it written down. Please tell me in the comments if I've got that wrong. So after Carnage is done with them, he decides that, you know what, resurrecting this eldritch monster from the dawn of time actually sounds like a pretty fun weekend. So he goes through the necessary steps to bring the god back to life, and when Cthulhu returns, Carnage kills him and absorbs some of its godlike powers, making Carnage even more powerful than he was before. The fact that Carnage has so little regard for the world and the people in it that he would try this at all is one thing, but the fact that he then succeeds and takes the powers of an eldritch abomination for himself is quite another. Number 3, assimilated an entire town, Carnage USA. One of the most ambitious of Carnage's many schemes still remains Carnage USA. In it, Carnage sets about using his symbiote powers to assimilate an entire American town in the Heartland into a single hive mind controlled by him. This act makes the first issue of this maxi series the best one, as the comic shows the slow, horrifying process by which Carnage takes over the entire town. It happens slowly at first, then all at once, as the Carnage symbiote bursts out of every water source in town, grabbing onto everyone they can find and turning them into mini Carnages. When S.H.I.E.L.D. gets wind of this and sends a squad of superheroes to liberate the town, Carnage then takes over all of them as well except Spider-Man anyway. Carnage rules the town like a god, turning the entire population into his puppets and his worshippers. Number 2. Burned down an orphanage, Carnage number 1. After Cletus killed his parents, as mentioned earlier, he was moved into St. Est's home for boys, where his, charming disposition made him the target of even more mockery than he got from his parents and grandma. And if there's one thing that guarantees death in the Marvel Universe, it's laughing at Cletus Cassidy. So, not long after arriving at the orphanage, he decides to take his chances somewhere else, but leaves a fond farewell for the many friends he made there in the form of a blazing inferno that burned the place to the ground, killing everyone inside. Number 1, he slaughtered most of Manhattan, maximum carnage. Even all these years later, the most despicable thing that Carnage has ever done is in the character's most famous story, Maximum Carnage. Then again, I suppose that makes sense, seeing as how, though not for lack of trying, Carnage hasn't really caused as much death on this kind of scale since. In this story, Carnage, getting a wild hair up his ass one afternoon just for some reason, rounds up a group of like-minded psychopaths for one specific goal: go to New York and kill everyone. No mess, no fuss, no grand scheme at the end of it all, just good old-fashioned mass slaughter. And with the help of his demented girlfriend Shriek, who drives most of Manhattan absolutely insane with her powers, he gets pretty far along with his plan as well. The entire town is thrown into chaos within hours, with Spider-Man just barely managing to keep up throughout. In the end, it takes a combined effort of Spider-Man, Venom, and a bunch of other superheroes to finally bring Carnage's reign of terror to an end. But his rampage would forever remain one of the most twisted acts of one of Marvel's most disturbing villains. So that's our list. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Can you think of any Carnage moments more twisted than this lot? And did you enjoy finding out about these? While you're down there as well, could you please give us a like, share, subscribe, and head over to What Culture Comics for more lists like this every single day. Even if you don't though, I've been Josh. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.